That's one of the things that, as you know, preparing for this and talking with each of you individually, several of you said how, I think one of you said that there are thousands of decisions yet to be made that's truly going to shape what this is, and then you probably truly could answer the question of whether this was, you know, good or bad in the end. And I think from, you know, a business owner's perspective or an executive's perspective, probably the main question people have now is, what are the key things yet to be decided, and when will this hit? What are some key dates in this legislation, or what are the things we should really be watching for now? And I'll throw that to whoever wants to.
I'll take a shot. I think for employers, you know, the one piece of advice now and for not too distant future, you need to have a great team of advisors, whether it's accountants, attorneys, brokers, consultants, working with you to make sure that you're aware of the changes and when they impact, because there is a lot to the legislation. There's a lot of details and there's a lot of unknowns. Some of the knowns are obviously regarding some of the mandated changes around dependent coverage that goes into effect, around lifetime maxes are not going to be enforced anymore. Those are two of three or four. There's some wellness provisions that the state of North Carolina already mandated. So we're ahead of that in our geography. So those are some mandates, you know, that need to be in place by I think it's September, October of 2010. In the future, there's some other targeted dates for some things to change. One of the big ones is in 2014 when the exchanges come into place. And there's a lot more to find out and understand about the exchanges and exactly how they work and how people will use them. But those are some of the key things right now that are going to impact employers and their plan designs that they offer to employees. And that's one of the big future events that employers need to be aware of.
A couple other things are 2010, there's a tax break or tax credits for small employers with 25 or fewer employees. I think it's if you contribute 35% to your, or 50% to your employees' premiums, then you get a 35% tax credit. And then 2014, that's when the mandatory coverage or penalty phase comes in for the larger employers as well.
That's a good point, Jeff. You know, I'm not a small business owner. I'm in a medium-sized company, but my understanding is only about a third of small businesses will actually benefit from this, because the criteria are less than 25 employees, you provide health insurance, and you pay at least 50% of that health insurance. Those three criteria alone wipe 2/3 of the small businesses off the map for the tax credit. So as a small business owner, you know, you have to think about what that means to you. And even if you do get the tax credit, it's temporary. It's going to be erased 5 or 6 years into the future. So I'm not sure it's that beneficial to the small business owners out there.
One of the things I think people always, this is a philosophical point, but one of the things people always said, working Americans have paid for the healthcare system because there's been a cost shift for the past 40 years since Medicaid came in. That's not going to change.
No.
That absolutely doesn't change at all. I mean, we're the ones who pay taxes. We're the ones in small businesses. Small businesses may not hire as many people because it's going to be a cost on the process. So when you come back, that philosophy of a cost shifting, or it's not going away. It's how this is going to be paid. And at the end, the same people are still going to fund the same portions of health care. And for us as providers, the transition over the next 4 years until the exchange comes, we're going to be cut from the feds and the state for the next 4 years. And then all of a sudden you'll start seeing, you know, coverage, you know, dollars coming back in the form of some type of payment for individuals who are now uninsured, who we treat for free, or basically virtually for free, versus those that will have some type of coverage. So you're going to have the cuts over the next 3 to 4 years, and then you hope you'll balance out at that point in time. But that's going to place enormous pressure on providers. We're going to have major issues in the hospital, but physicians, I think, are going to have major issues during that period of time, because it's an interesting thing. You know, most hospitals are not-for-profit. 85–90% of hospitals in the country are not-for-profit. Physicians, by their very nature, are the quintessential small business people. and, I'll stand up for Jeff on this one in the process, but these guys are small businesses. He's not with Wilmington Health, but I've got Fernando Moy in the first row. He and his partners have a small business. What other group in this room has to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning, get out of bed, come in and provide service, not ask if you're going to be paid, and be subject to liability? There's no other small business in the world. Joe the plumber 3 years ago didn't get out of bed for free, or 2 years ago, but Fernando has to. And in the transition with the cuts, and the cuts, you're going to have a major stress on physicians during this period of time. And they're looking at cuts. They're hoping to break even during this period of time. But it's going to force physicians, as we said earlier, I think, to behave differently during this process. So this is going to be a tough transition.
It's an interesting point. It's like somewhat counterintuitive, because there's already a projection of a shortage of primary care physicians to the tune of 40,000 by 2025, and yet I don't think that anybody is being enticed to go into medicine at this particular moment. And the training curve is so long that this could exacerbate that a little bit. Now, I think that some of that's probably a bit overplayed, because I don't think that we use our resources as efficiently as we possibly can, and that's one of the opportunities that we have in the future, is to get the high-level, highly skilled physicians doing highly skilled work. And not everything that we do in medicine is highly skilled. We can provide the same quality of care with a slightly different skill set. That's one of the opportunities we have to try to bend some of the cost curve. But the biggest benefits, the biggest opportunities to bend the cost curve are going to come with the collaboration, are going to come with Jack and I and the home health guys and the long-term care guys and the insurance companies sitting down and actually looking at the whole piece and figuring out how we can drive the waste out of the system. But the increased utilization is likely to dwarf the waste that we can cut out of the system.
One of the things, and I'll shut up for a second in the process, is what Jeff said earlier, I'm bullish on healthcare in Wilmington. I'm not bullish on healthcare in America. And in southeastern North Carolina, we have the ability, because of where we're located, how we're structured with really one major provider, groups of physicians working together, with employers, with people working together out of the process, strong post-hospital care. We have the ability to craft something without looking over our shoulders, wondering how much market share is being taken here, how much taken there. We have the ability to adapt to these changes that are out there, and I think move forward, not move laterally during the process. So I actually like, the ability for us to drive good, strong care long term and make the adjustments to the delivery system that are going to be necessary. And that's a function to a great degree, I think, of the fact that, we do have one strong provider from a hospital perspective. We have a number of phenomenal physicians. We have a great, pre and post hospital service. And when you add that up, we're going to be able to make the changes, I believe, quicker than some of these folks in competitive markets are, and be in a position that we're going to be able to provide, as Jeff said, better evidence-based care on a day-to-day basis to our residents. And I think that's one of the great challenges that we have. And that's what, frankly, he and I have been talking about for a year now.
Yeah.
And we're pretty, we'll deal with whatever changes that are thrown in front of us, but we're better off than a lot of other places are in this process.